What do you got, Coach? 3 things that all coaches need.
Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of coaches?
New York or the Aces? Definitely going with the Aces.
All right, 4th dial. Who has the tougher job, coaches or officials? If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? For Texas, it's different.
And we are back once again. This is the Coaches Co-op, where coaches connect, grow, and share the grind. I am your host, Michael Prejean, better known as Coach P. Each week, I'm teaming up with coaches across the country to break down the wins, the lessons, and everything in between. This week, we are doing something a little different for the first time. I told you it was coming, but this will be our WNBA episode. So this week, I'm teaming up with Taylor Harris. I've already given her a nickname. I don't know if she likes it or not, but we're going to call her WNBA Tay. So put your virtual hands together and y'all welcome WNBA Tay, better known as Taylor Harris, to the co-op.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I am so glad you're here. So I mentioned that you are our resident WNBA expert. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay. And then we'll come back. So one thing that we definitely need to know is what's going on in the WNBA. So we're going to dive in with tea time.
Okay.
So what is some of the newest tea coming out of the WNBA? Let's not call it new tea. Let's call it hot tea. What's the hot tea?
Okay. So there's a lot of warm tea around the league, I'd say, but the hottest of teas would be, I'd say probably, so you have Rickea Jackson, started off the season with the LA Sparks, who didn't play the amount of minutes or games that fans would have liked for her to play. So there was a lot of speculation there about what was going on with her and the Sparks organization. And then, Rickea Jackson and some of her family members and friends had some comments about the Sparks organization on social media. So that sparked a little bit of controversy. And shortly after, we saw her back in the uniform, back on the floor. So we can infer that maybe some of those social media comments, kind of got the organization and the coaching staff a little bit, probably was like more of a push to put her back on the floor. So not sure what's going on there necessarily. I think that from what we heard from Rickea and her family and friends, she thought there was a little bit of favoritism going on there. And she just wasn't playing as many minutes as she thought she deserved. So she was unhappy, but it seems that she's back into a little bit of a flow now.
Well, before we go to the next thing, I think she's going to be an all-star in this league.
I agree.
I believe that. So her not being on the floor is baffling. Now, there was some talk about a concussion.
Yes. There was some talk about a few things. There was injury. We didn't really get clarity on what the injury was. There was some talk about possibly a concussion. There was some talk about personal reasons. And then some other speculation from, just different social media trolls. But we never really got a clear answer.
Okay. All right. So that's the hot tea concerning Rickea Jackson.
Yes.
What else do you have for us?
The latest, what I actually woke up to this morning, would be, I would say, the Dejanay Carrington. I wouldn't call it drama, more so controversy. She received a couple of flagrants, and we're only about, 8th or 9th game into the season, 8 or 9 games into the season. So she has, the when you hit the player above the head type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
fans don't like that. Teammates don't like that. So we saw it happen with her and Skylar Diggins. We saw it happen with her and Jessica Shepard from the Minnesota Lynx. And she is facing a lot of ridicule from social media fans saying that she needs to be investigated for her dirty, quote unquote, dirty play. I wouldn't necessarily label it as dirty. But they're saying that she needs to be investigated, calling for her to, be looked into for her style of play. Now, Dejanay Carrington did clap back a couple of days ago and say, hey, if you know anything about basketball, then I'm just playing hard. I don't give up on a play. And some of her flagrants, she says, have been rescinded. So I guess maybe her and her staff, submitted some of those plays to the league for review, and they've possibly been rescinded. So there's some tea with that whole situation there.
Okay, so I'm actually looking at her tweet right here.
Okay.
She says, y'all fans swear I'm such a dirty player. I'm so, and so is in all caps, over this narrative, because if you really know ball, I just play hard, as if, and I never give up on a play. And yup, we challenged the last couple of flagrants and got them rescinded because I'm always trying to make a play on the ball. None more, nothing less. So women in the W play hard.
They do. I think that the latest of her quote unquote dirty plays, she got into a little bit of a tussle. She was falling and she kind of grabbed the hair of one of the Sparks players on yesterday's game. And I think that's what really fueled the fire, because most times she's going for a block, and that's where the contact above the head comes from. But this time the ball was kind of out of play. But I personally believe she was trying to kind of catch her fall a little bit. So that's what mostly fueled the fire.
Okay. Do you have anything else for tea time?
I think that's it for some hot tea.
All right.
Cooling off.
So we just wanted to kind of get you engaged, get you started on this hot tea. So Taylor, I have known you for, I guess, about half your life.
Probably more than half.
More
than half, definitely.
Yeah. So I've known you for quite a while. You are a WNBA enthusiast. So for those who may be listening or watching, I want you to tell them how you were drawn into the game.
Into the game of basketball, the WNBA specifically?
Into the game of basketball, and then build that bridge going to the W. Okay.
Well, I think growing up, my generation was a play outside generation. So we're always just playing the sports that we had access to. I actually like, quote baseball or softball, but I didn't have a glove or I didn't have a ball, but there was always a goal, a basketball goal on at the end of somebody's driveway, which turned into me begging my parents for my own basketball goal. And then of course I'm an only child, only daughter. So getting what I begged for, didn't really have to beg, but getting what I asked for. And then my neighbors were really strong basketball enthusiasts. One of them won a national championship with Baylor. One of them is currently an assistant coach at Texas Tech. And the other one he's a rising athlete at College Park. So 4 boys over there, basketball enthusiasts, they kind of just really taught me a lot about basketball. All those hidden rules that you don't really know. Right. Yeah, those street rules, quote unquote. So and that led to me just, wanting to play more and more, playing daily outside in the driveway. And then, of course, watching basketball with my dad. He's a big Rockets fan. So I watched a lot of Rockets, and we still do. And then eventually I just kind of wanted to see people who looked like me. So I was aware of the WNBA, but it was kind of hard to the viewership was very low then. They weren't really national. So I had to do things like download the League Pass app. And, so I was probably, I would say, one of the early viewers, working hard to try to find games that are actually available to view. And now we're at such a place where games are accessible to pretty much everyone. So I'd say there. Okay. So one of the things that we did, I'm gonna see if I can get it pulled up on the screen over here, is so you put out your top 10. Well, we can't say top 10. There are 13 teams in the league now. So you put your rankings out,
and then I kind of piggyback off of you, and then I put my rankings out there. So let me see if I can get this pulled up on the screen and see how we actually did. All right, so there it is right there. So let's start from the bottom. And this will bring us, once we go through this list, it'll bring us to our next segment. So we both had Golden State.
Yes.
At the bottom of the list.
Yes.
Okay. Connecticut, we both had Connecticut at 12. Lots of roster turnover there. And then, of course, with Golden State, just an expansion team. You don't expect a whole lot out of an expansion team. In 11th, you had Chicago.
Right.
And I had the Wings.
Okay.
We both had the Mystics at 10. You had the Sparks at 9. I had the Sky at 9. I had the Sparks at 6. Okay. At 8, you had Atlanta. I had Phoenix. 7, Dallas. I had Phoenix. I'm sorry. 7, you had Dallas. I had the Dream. Then at 6, you had Phoenix and the Sparks. You had the Seattle Storm at 5. I had the Fever at 5. Okay. So then we get to the top 4. So we're talking about these are the best of the best. These are the best teams in the W. Right. So you had the Liberty, the Fever, the Aces, and the Lynx. We agreed on the Lynx. I love Minnesota, love Nafisa Collier. I had the Liberty and the Aces coming in at 2 and 3. Okay. And then Seattle. I think Seattle's got a boring roster, but they got players. Okay. Seattle's got players. Okay. So then I put the actual rankings. I put the actual standings where they are. We're about not quite 25% through the season. We're about 20% through the season. They're going to play 40 games this year, 40-game regular season. Okay. So the Lynx and the Liberty are actually at the top. Both of those teams have yet to lose a game. It's pretty clear that they are the class of the league. We got a surprise here with Atlanta. Okay, the Aces are here at 4, and then you see the list there as it is. So all the way down there at the bottom, if you look down at the very bottom of that list, you can see the Dallas Wings. The Dallas Wings, it seems like they're just trying to win the lottery every year. So let's talk about some surprises. Let's talk about some surprises. Okay. Let me make sure I got us right on the screen. My screen's off, right?
Yes.
There we go. All right. So let's talk about some surprises. Who is your most surprising team so far? Let's do it this way. Who's your good surprise?
My good surprise, I'd have to say Washington is my good surprise. And I didn't expect them to necessarily perform well. Like last year, I watched a lot of their games, and they never perform poorly. I didn't expect them to perform poorly. They never do. They just have trouble kind of closing out close games. Like in-game situations, not their best. So they're always in games. Like I think they played maybe New York. It was New York the day before yesterday, and they were in a very tight battle with them. But New York has been blowing people out. So they're very competitive. But they've won more games than I expected them to already this season. They're on a pretty good track. So I would say Washington has been my good surprise. Those rookies, I didn't expect for the rookies to come in and look so comfortable.
Okay, so you picked Washington. We both picked Washington to finish 10th. Right now, they're in that 8th slot, which would qualify them for a playoff.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's your other good surprise?
My other good surprise, I'd have to say Atlanta, and I didn't expect them to perform poorly. I think it just didn't click to me what was coming in with Brianna Jones and Brittany Griner. So I'd say Atlanta has been another good surprise.
Okay. Atlanta's currently sitting in that number 3 spot. Atlanta is sitting in that 3 spot. Let's see, where did we have them? You had Atlanta at 8. I had them at 7. So we had them both there. I think Brianna Jones has consistently been, now she's been on really good teams, but I think she's consistently been a little bit underrated.
I agree. And she did win the most improved award before she had her big Achilles injury, but I think there needs to be more recognition and more talk with her as well.
All right. Are there any teams that you have as a bad surprise?
Definitely Dallas. I didn't expect Dallas to start so slow. Definitely Dallas.
Dallas has one win.
One win.
What do you think the issue is there?
I think that for me, Arike Gumbawale has not performed as consistently as she has in the past to start the season. She's not obviously the end all be all. She's not the overall issue, of course, but then you have Paige Beckers, missing some games with concussion, and she's been honestly a really good point guard for the team. Then their backup point guard, has been benched with injury as well. So they're without a true point guard, and they've been without a true point guard for the last few games. So maybe they could have, won 2 or 3 additional games at this point, but they're without that true point guard spot. And then, like I said, with, they have a new coach in Chris Koklanis, but he has coaching experience. Obviously, fans are quick to blame the staff, so they're calling for, the crucifixion of Chris. But I think that he's done well for what he's been dealt.
Is it? I wonder if it's the staff or if it's the front office staff. And the reason I say that is, when has Dallas had a true point guard?
It's been a while. I think Paige came in and she filled that position pretty good. Her assist numbers are pretty high. Her turnover numbers are really low. So and then they brought back Ty Harris. So you have Kurt Miller in the front office, right? Kurt Miller, was with Connecticut, which is where Chris came from. Coach Chris Koklanis came from.
Okay.
So I think that he wanted to bring a lot of his Connecticut pieces over to Dallas, which is why he brought over Ty Harris, Dejanay Carrington. And Kurt Miller is he's a guard-focused coach. So I don't know necessarily when the last time. I think the last time Dallas has had a true point guard is when Ty Harris was with Dallas initially, before she was with Connecticut.
But this was rookie Ty Harris, right?
Yeah, she was pretty young.
Okay.
She was pretty young.
So we need Dallas to get it together. And the reason I'm saying we need Dallas to get it together is Dallas is the closest WNBA team to where we are. So I try to catch a game every year. So Dallas, I need y'all to get it together because I want to come in, root for you. This is the fan speaking, not so much the analyst, right? I want Dallas to get it together. I do like Kurt Miller. So we'll see if they can get it together. But right now, Dallas is sitting 13th. Mm-hmm. They have one win. Mm-hmm. They've got injuries. They've got the hot tea that we talked about earlier with Dejanay Carrington. Right. Let me ask your opinion on this before we go to the next segment. Is it time for Arike to maybe consider playing somewhere else?
I'm leaning toward that. I think that her time in Dallas has not been as productive as management or she would have liked for it to have been. She has made the playoffs a few years, but never truly advanced. And Arike, obviously, she's an amazing player, but I think that, like you've said, your quote, she can shoot you into a game, she can shoot you out of a game.
She's got that Kobe gene. May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. But she can light it up, or she can put the fire out. So it's possibly time for Arike to start looking at moving forward, as Satu did, just as Satu Sabali did.
So let's go ahead and play what if.
Okay.
So let's say, season ends, barring some miraculous turnaround, Dallas is not in the playoffs again. Mm-hmm. And they need to move some pieces to try to start a rebuild. Mm-hmm. Where do you see Arike being a potential good fit?
I think Chicago would be a good fit for Arike. Chicago won that championship when they had a dynamic guard in Kalia Copper. They haven't had a dynamic like combo guard in a couple of years. I'd say that's the piece that Chicago is missing, honestly. Someone that's dynamic, that can light it up, that can lead the team. I'd see Chicago as a good fit.
I think Chicago would be a great fit because of course they're big, right? They have the production in the front court. They have the size in the front court. Right now, Chicago is leaning on the lefty. We talked about her yesterday. They're leaning on Ariel Atkins to be that lead guard. But I think a combination of Ariel Atkins and Arike Agumbawale, that I like that backcourt because Atkins gives you that grit and that defensive acumen, and that allows Arike to just do Arike, and Angel Reese cleans up everything.
Exactly.
I like that. I think you're on to something there. I really like that. Okay. So now let's move. So we talked about good surprises and bad surprises. Let's talk about player watch. Okay. Let's talk about player watch, and let's start with the rookies.
Okay.
Who should we be keeping our eyes on for potential rookie of the year?
Kiki Iriafen, Sonia Citron, Paige Beckers, those three. With Paige's injury, it was a concussion injury. So hopefully she'll be back soon because she was starting to get into a groove. So I hate that, but definitely Kiki, Sonia. Sonia has been like a pure scorer. We're only a few games into the season. She looks like a pure scorer. She looks extremely comfortable. Same with Kiki, putting up double numbers. I think she's averaging a double. I could be wrong, but I think she's averaging or very close to averaging a double. So those would definitely be my players to watch for Rookie of the Year.
Let's look up Kiki's stats. Really? So these numbers are nice. So she's at 14.9 points a game and 9.9 rebounds a game. So she's right at 15 and 10 as a rookie. Those are good numbers. She looked at this last year at Southern Cal. I thought she looked really polished.
Yeah.
I thought her game would translate very well to the pros. So I'm not surprised that these numbers are there, 15 and 10. Now, the pleasant surprise on that list, I would say, has been Sonia Citron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is it about her game that has translated so well to the W?
I think she's just gritty. I think she's tough, and she has no fear. Like she's gonna attack anybody that's in front of her, and then her shooting stroke is pretty pure as well, so she can kind of light it up a little bit from three. But we saw that from even in preseason, she wasn't afraid. She never looked timid. From the first tip, currently, she's never looked timid.
That's good. So she's at 14 a game, and she's rebounding well from her position. So she's at 14 a game with four rebounds a game and 2 assists. So those are solid numbers.
Yeah, I think she's a tough player, and the mental aspect for her is like her strength.
So can they hold on? So Kiki and Sonia Citron, both rookies for the Washington Mystics. Right now, about a fifth of the way through the season, they're sitting in that 8th spot. Do you think they can hold on to that 8th spot?
I think that they haven't even began to play their best basketball yet. As long as injuries don't catch up to them, we usually see Brittany Sykes kind of struggle a little bit. Shakira Austin, she kind of struggles a little bit with keeping their bodies healthy every year.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can maintain good health, and they haven't even started playing their best basketball yet, they're still experiencing or getting used to a new coach as well. I think that they can definitely hold on to the 8th spot or move up in the standings.
Okay, good stuff there. So just above them is Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Just above them is Indiana. Indiana is currently sitting in that 7th spot, and Indiana is playing Chicago today. So expect all eyes to be on that game because of the last matchup between Indiana and Chicago. And then sitting right below the Mystics are the Chicago Sky. So depending on what happens there today, we could have a little bit of movement in the standings. Okay, so that's rookie watch. So when we talk about most improved, so who are we looking at for potentially most improved player this year?
I think I had a few options, but I'm going to have to go with right now Alicia Gray. And some could argue that there's not really space. She's been a good player, right? She's been productive in the league since she's gotten to Atlanta, honestly. But I think that her numbers, I'm not sure if there's a huge jump, but I definitely believe that there's been a pretty noticeable jump in her points per game, her rebounds per game. She just seems, and it may have something to do with her production in the Unrivaled League. You know, sometimes that off-season play builds your confidence up, because she was definitely performing at a high level in Unrivaled, and I think it's translated to the season.
Well, we're also talking about an Olympian.
Absolutely.
We're also talking about an Olympian. These numbers, listen. So let's here are career averages. Career averages 13, 4, and 2. Okay, 13 points a game, about 4.5 rebounds, 2 assists. 8 games into the season, she's at 25 and about 4.5 assists per game.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about Atlanta being that good surprise, she's a huge reason why they're a good surprise.
Absolutely. I think she would be my player to watch for most improved. I think she's just coming in. She's not afraid. She has a little bit more confidence to her step, to her shot. So that'd be my player to watch for most improved.
All right, man. The NBA is off to a great start. Alicia Gray, 8 games through, she's averaging 20 points a game, 5.3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and then her steal numbers are right on par, averaging 1 steal per game. And let me throw this in here too. Her shooting numbers. She's always been solid from the free throw line, but career numbers are about 43% from the field. She's at 48 right now, and then she's shooting 43 from the 3-point line. So she's shooting the 3-ball well. So her numbers across the board. This is why Atlanta is a pleasant surprise. So where is Atlanta in the standings again? So we got Atlanta right now sitting in that 3 spot, and Alicia Gray is Taylor's player to watch for most improved. Okay, so now let's talk about our MVP candidates. It's never too early to talk about MVP candidates, okay? So who are your players that we need to watch for MVP? We have some new names, and we also have some of our perennial NBA MVP candidates. So who you have?
So I have obviously got to start off with Napheesa Collier.
Talk about Napheesa Collier a little bit before you move on. What is your favorite thing about her game?
I think it is her footwork. I'm getting excited. It's her footwork. I love watching her play. It's like as soon as a player thinks that they've stopped her, she has a counter. So she just finds different ways to score. Even when the ball isn't going in the basket, she's productive or effective on the floor, whether it's rebounding, passing, and then her defense. You know, I believe she was defensive player of the year last year.
Yeah.
So we could be looking at, a double award there in 2025 as well. But not to jump ahead, but she's just so impactful in everything she does. My favorite thing about her is definitely her footwork and her ability to put the ball in the basket from at all 3 levels.
So if you're a watcher of women's basketball on the collegiate level, you know, of course, about UConn. When they were at UConn, Katie Lou Samuelson got most of the press, but in my mind, there's no way she gets loose to do what she does without Napheesa Collier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so the numbers here are just phenomenal. 25, she's at 25 and 9, 25 points a game, 9 boards, 2 steals a game.
And their record is
they haven't lost a game. They haven't lost a game. So they probably have, and a strong probably, they probably have the best coach in the league, right? Coach / general manager and Cheryl Reeve, and Napheesa Collier is just, yeah. I'm a huge fan. All right, who's your next candidate for early MVP watch?
Gotta go with Asia Wilson.
All right, the fan favorite.
Asia
The
Wilson's
fan
on.
favorite.
Gotta go
Tell
with
us about Asia.
she dominant, just dominant everywhere. She's honestly improved on her 3-ball a little bit. So if you could, I don't know what those numbers are, but from the looks of it, she looks more comfortable stepping out behind the arc, shooting a 3-ball. So teams, teams just don't know what to do with her. I do think I wouldn't say she hasn't been as aggressive. But that's what I mean. She probably hasn't been as aggressive to start the season as she has been in the past. But as you can never rule Asia Wilson out. She's just a dominant player. Also, becoming a 3-way player, such as Nafisha Collier. Her defense is amazing. Her leadership is amazing. I think all the players in the league, if you ask them who's the best, that'll be their pick.
Having had the opportunity to watch her in person, the most impressive thing for me was her level of conditioning.
I agree.
It was, sprinting. So we coach on the high school level. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to get our kids to play hard consistently. But just noticing how hard she plays on every possession.
On both ends.
On both ends of the floor, watching how hard she plays end to end and doesn't take plays off, is sprinting. We're talking about great footwork. So, and I want to point this out. So she's shooting almost 93% from the free throw line this year.
Wow.
So not only is she a matchup nightmare, she's stepping out to the 3-point line. So now you have to guard her there. She can put the ball on the floor and go by you. And if you foul her, we're talking about just about an automatic 2 points. So if you haven't had the chance to watch her play in person, you need to make it happen. She'll be on TV today. All right. I want to say they're on ABC today, I think, playing against the expansion Golden State Valkyries. Okay, Tay, who's next for MVP watch?
For MVP watch, this may be a little bit of a stretch. Possibly, but I like Aaliyah Boston for a third choice for MVP watch. I think that she could be more so most improved or MVP. But Aaliyah Boston, and she's been a little bit less effective or less productive as she was when Caitlin Clark was healthy, because they run a really good 2-man game together, and I think nobody can set her up like Caitlin Clark. But she started the season off just amazing. Automatic. And we talk about her conditioning levels a lot, but I think that she is one of the best 5s in the league. Like, she's so dominant. I think that when she has you on the block, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing players can do. And we're talking about vets and we're talking about rookies. I think that even vets like Brittany Griner have trouble with Aaliyah Boston. And she showed how dominant she is on the low block so far this year.
When every year at the beginning of the season, you and I talk about Aaliyah Boston, and I think she is leaving so much out there. I think she has so much more in her game to give. Now her numbers are good. So she's at 15.9. She's shooting the 3-ball at 50%. Okay. She's shooting 67% from the floor.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about those types of numbers, I think she gets touches. I would like to see her look to score more off of those touches. I want to see, she's creating offense with her touches, no doubt. Yeah. But I would like to see her create a little more offense for herself off some of those touches.
I agree. And I think, as I said previously, I think she does a better job of that when Caitlin Clark is on the floor. And I don't know if it's just the level of accountability that her and Caitlin have together. Maybe Caitlin's holding her to that standard. But I've seen a little bit less of that aggression since she's been off the floor. But I agree. I'd like to see her just be unstoppable mentally and physically when she gets the ball in her hands.
And this is a team, talking about the Indiana Fever, that you expected to take a step up. So you had them in your top 4 for for preseason. You had them actually in your top 3. So right now they're sitting in that 7 spot. So with Caitlin Clark being out, we definitely need to see that aggression, especially when you're shooting 67% from the field.
Yeah.
Go ahead and go out there and look to create. Do you have anybody else on your MVP watch list that we need to talk about?
Try to put guards in the conversation. So if I'm going to put a guard in the conversation, I think, Ryan Howard, as long as if she can take a step forward, she's been really good for her Atlanta team as well. So she's been, a really valuable player for that organization. Also, Nneka Ogwumike, going back to the talls, but Nneka Ogwumike has been really, really, she's a vet in the league, but it's like she hasn't missed a step.
That's good. That's good. So let's just do a little recap. We didn't do that initially. So we talked about surprises first. Okay. You're in the Coaches Co-op. I'm here with WNBA Tay, and we are talking all things WNBA. So one of the things we started off with was surprises. So we talked about good surprises as far as teams go. Sticking with Ryan Howard. So one of our good surprises was Atlanta. So Ryan Howard is a dark horse for Taylor as an MVP candidate. And then we also talked about Alicia Gray being on the most improved watch list. Okay. Another good surprise was Washington. Washington's got 2 rookies on the watch list for Rookie of the Year. Good surprise. Our bad surprise, sitting at the bottom of the standings. My mood has changed as we have to talk about the Dallas Wings. Okay. Bad surprise. Okay. So then going back through our rookie watch list, we talked about Kiki Iriafen, of course, Paige Beckers, who is on everybody's Rookie of the Year watch list, and then Sonia Citron, who has been a very, very pleasant surprise. Most improved. There's only one person on that list right now. It's Alicia Gray. Numbers are phenomenal through this first 5th of the season. And then Taylor's top 3 MVP candidates. You got Pieces, of course, Asia Wilson, and Aaliyah Boston. Okay, those are Taylor's top 3. And then her dark horses. Now, one thing that Taylor mentioned to me yesterday is the MVP candidates tend to be talls, right? They tend to be bigs, but Taylor wanted to make sure that she included a small or a guard in that list, and that's Ryan Howard of Atlanta, again, on our good surprise list. And then one of the steadiest hands that the WNBA has ever known, Nneka Ogwumike. Let me say H-Town's own Nneka Ogwumike. Okay, man, Taylor, that's good stuff. We are about 40 minutes in. Okay, we're about 40 minutes in. So that also means that we are about to be on our way out. So let's do this for the people who are watching or listening. Okay, I want to do some over under. Okay, hopefully Brittany is watching. Hopefully Brittany is watching, because Brittany always calls us to be like, hey, tell me what I should do for my parlays. Okay. So I got some for you. Okay. Let's start with Las Vegas versus Golden State. Okay. Let me get my list up here. Well, let's start with Las Vegas versus Golden State. All right. So here's the line for we're going to go Asia Wilson and Chelsea Gray from this game. Both of these players play for the Las Vegas Aces. They are playing the expansion Golden State Valkyrie at 2 p.m. today. Okay, so let's go Asia Wilson, 23.5 points. You're going over or under?
Over.
Over. 11.5 rebounds. Over or under?
Over.
4.5 assists. Over or under?
Under.
Okay, last one for Asia, 39.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Over or under?
Under.
Under. All right, you got it. You got it. So make sure y'all are tapping into that. All right. Also, Las Vegas Aces versus Golden State Valkyrie. This game is going to come on at 2 p.m. Local time today on ABC. Let's do Chelsea Gray. Let's go Chelsea Gray. 19 and a half points, rebounds, and assists. Over or under?
Over.
All righty. Those are our picks for Golden State. Now, the game that everybody is going to be watching, 7 p.m. tonight, Indiana versus Chicago. We're going to go Angel Reese and Aaliyah Boston. All right. Angel Reese, 12 and a half rebounds. Over or under?
Over.
All right. Aaliyah Boston, 15 and a half points. Over or under?
Over.
8 and a half rebounds. Over or under?
Under.
All right. Last game of the night, 9 o'clock tonight. The Seattle Storm at the Phoenix Mercury. We're going to go Satu Sabali. Okay. Satu Sabali is having a good year so far.
Yes.
We want to see her make it through the entire year.
Yeah.
So we're praying, right? If I remember correctly, I think Satu Sabali has only had one season where she's made it through the entire season. So prayers up for injury free. Now, 19 and a half points tonight versus the Mercury for Satu Sabali. You going over or under?
I think I'm going under.
Under. Okay. So let's go 30 and a half points, rebounds, and assists. Over or under for Satu Sabali? 30 and a half.
I'm going under.
Okay. All right. Now, let's go with your favorite player. Your favorite player, Skylar Diggins. No longer Smith.
What's the category?
All right. So we're going to go, let's go points and assists. 23 and a half. Over or under?
Over.
All right. So that's your over under. Episode 1 of the Coaches Co-op with WNBA Tay has come to an end. Thank you for joining the Coaches Co-op. Big thanks to our guest, Taylor Harris, aka, can I call you WNBA Tay?
Sure.
All right, WNBA Tay, thank you for sharing your expert takes on the WNBA. Listen, if you have walked away with some new insight or energy for the WNBA, then we did our job. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you follow, subscribe, leave us a great review. Listen, it's Coach P and WNBA Tay. Remember, in the Coaches Co-op, we do what most people can't. Tay, hold back for a second while I get the outro music ready. Until next time, see y'all.